All right, I think it's about time we get started. Good afternoon, and welcome to Gray Decision Intelligence's webinar on the AI advantage, driving insights, student success, and institutional effectiveness. I am Ned Carrion. I'm your host today, but very briefly, I'd like to go over just some housekeeping issues. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A section at the bottom of the webinar. That allows people to upvote them. We'll try to get through them in the order that they are received based on the speaker that's speaking. If we do not, for some reason, we do not get to them, we will definitely follow up with you after the webinar. If you have any comments, we always like to see where people are from, so put that in the chat. If you're having technical difficulties, also put that in the chat or raise your hand. Throughout this webinar, we will be issuing or distributing out some poll questions around artificial intelligence. We'd really like your feedback on some of the questions we're doing. And without further ado, I will turn it over to Mary Upchurch, the head of our customer success division here at Gray Decision Intelligence. Oh my goodness.
Thank you, Ned, and good day to everyone. We are delighted that you have chosen to join us today. We hope to make great use of the next 50 to 55 minutes of your time. And I want to remind you that in addition to this recording, we will be providing backup information after the webinar. I have the pleasure of actually moderating this group of speakers today. I have a few thoughts to share, and then we will leap directly into the core material. I want to start here. Artificial intelligence is something that, of course, is a common point of discussion everywhere today, no matter where you turn. And in higher education, it's both provocative as well as can be unsettling and exciting all at the same time. I think this quote from Jacob Collier captures it best when you think about how to place AI into the universe and its use as how we want to consider it. And I just want to focus on its point here about the fact that it can be a tool, and it's referencing here in music making, and that's a great thing, but it's got to be the humanity in the music that makes people want to listen to it. And so when we talk about AI, and when we're going to be talking about it with you today, it is always going to be from the point that humanity is always involved. This is not something that is going to run wild and you can't control it, or it's something to be feared necessarily. It actually is a remarkable tool that can be harnessed and leveraged for great performance efficiencies, application uses, and improvements in success. Go ahead, Elaine. I want to spend one moment talking about how Gray Decision Intelligence thinks about artificial intelligence, using it in higher education coupled with advanced analytics. And I'm going to highlight three different places in which we are focused. The first is research planning and analysis, and there are a number of tools that we use it as a part, a component, or maybe a main driver in it, whether it's understanding an institution's value proposition and its pricing position within the larger marketplace and consideration from choices, enrollment, and really trying to understand the probability, what can be expected, and by the way, therefore, what can be planned for and budgeted as well as forecasted. Answering an age-old question, if I think about a new program and I add it, how big could it be? We actually have figured out a way to use that, and we do use AI in that process. And it's a very powerful resource that can help you see forward into the future with potential. And then an application into the financial space. Finally, we have developed a continuing set of AI agents to make our tools easier to use. So you don't have to be an expert in system navigation, but instead can pose very important bottom line questions regarding the data, whether it's financial or otherwise, for your direct instructional economics, for, as an instance, and getting an answer so you can get to what you need to know. The second space is actually in the academic and student space. And this is the one I think that causes the greatest amount of dialogue and debate and concern in higher ed right now. And it's how can it be used in a way that intellectual property from the academic perspective is not violated. Students are supported, but are not either dealing with introduced, perhaps inaccurate information in their utilization, and an instructor can be satisfied that it's moving the ball forward for the student in a way that they're actually learning. So we have recently launched 3 AI-based tools. We call them the COCOs. for College Companion for short. We have Course Companion, Career Companion, and Communications Companion. The Course Companion is addressing the need to support students at the point in learning within a course. It is a closed environment. It is a grounded tool for use by the professor where the professor can control all of the content. Nothing is drawn from outside of it, nor is the content in the course used to be learned upon. So it's not furthering any other AI. From the student standpoint, it's a supportive tool that functions in a Socratic method approach. So it's not designed to give an answer. It is designed to walk a student through a process to understand and identify the answer. And I want to say that with some of maybe the biggest needs in job skills right now being actually how to learn, because the shelf life of skills is going shorter and shorter. This is actually a great way to reinforce it. It also can help pinpoint areas where students in a course are collectively struggling. And then we have Career Companion, and that is as an extension of the Career Center to help students understand what might be out there, what a day in the life of a particular career might look like, what they can expect for earnings, what their competencies are and that are needed. It's an area that every school is trying to support their students with, but can be resource constrained. So this is an extension of that. And then finally, Communications Companion. This is designed to facilitate everything from, supporting difficult conversations to allowing a student to practice a presentation and work with a persona who is going to interact and engage with them. So key areas, and we see them all as supportive of higher education with a recognition of the need for intellectual property protection, control of the information accuracy that's provided to a student, but the ability to be present when the student needs it. And then finally, a third area that we look at right now, and that's in operations and marketing. Everything from location optimization as schools are considering campus expansions, as well as geographic marketing, and you're considering the enrollment pools that you want to reach. All of these use AI tools for grade DI, and we found them to be very effective. They're effective on your behalf, and they're incredibly efficient. Go ahead, Elaine. One of the things that we ask when we think about using advanced analytics and artificial intelligence is actually what kind of questions can it help answer for you? So it's really about the problems that you're solving, and it really gets to decision intelligence support, which is the focus of our work with you. And we've noted here just a number of the ones that we are trying to address and are working and have solutions to address. I think when you're thinking within your institution about how you might be using the capabilities of AI, it's useful to step back and say, what do I need from it? And what can it help me understand either more clearly, more deeply, more quickly? And where can I put then my resources once I have that information? I'm going to make a point now. You will hear it echoed in a number of different spots. AI can be very useful in gathering information and bringing it together. It does not mean that it's right, and validation is always a requirement of any use of any AI. And we take that very seriously here when we craft our tools as well. We validate also. So with that, just as an opening perspective, let me spend a moment telling you about who is going to be speaking today. I'd like to start with Dr. James Dashent. He is the Provost and Chief Academic Officer at Point Loma Nazarene. Dr. Dashent holds degrees from Harvard and a number of other institutions, and has a very large body of work that he has published. You may not realize it, but street art is his specialty, including urban guerrilla work and a number of other publications. He has 6 books that have been published. The other degrees that he holds are from Boston University, which is in a Master's of Fine Arts, and he also has 2 degrees, one from Harvard and one from Columbia in the educational space. And we are thrilled to hear him talk. He's going to be talking about both the perspective of using AI and dealing with faculty, as well as from student preparedness. Dr. Jay Miller, who is the current Dean of Social Work at the University of Kentucky, has a long-standing focus on work using and recent employed AI, but his concentration has been in social work. It's also in terms of social issues and community outreach and child welfare. At the time of his appointment in 2019 as dean, he was the youngest dean in the United States of America. He holds his PhD from the University of Louisville, and he's recently launched and founded a self-care lab, which is designed to help professionals in their work. And then our third, but first speaker, actually out of the box, is going to be Elaine Millar. She is a graduate of Dartmouth. Elaine actually has an extensive career in research. And before working with Gray Decision Intelligence, has worked with other firms where she has done and completed a wide body of market research, focused really heavily in the higher education sector in the last decade here. She is going to talk with you about how she has used and leveraged AI capabilities as a lens into the future. And so rather than take away from what her comments are going to be, I'm going to turn it over to her now. Elaine?
Great. Thank you, Mary. So again, I'm Elaine Millar. I'm our AVP of Research here at Grady I. And my role here at Grady I is sort of very similar to an institutional researcher at a college and university. As Mary mentioned, I've been doing research throughout my career. And like many of you, I've seen the tools that we use to do research evolve over time. I literally can harken back to the days of CD-ROM libraries. Then we had the dial-up modems connecting to this, new thing called the internet. Then we got search engines. And now with AI, the process and the tools are, evolving and accelerating. And they're bringing some very, very powerful tools to our desktop. So as Mary said, I'm going to be talking sort of about some of the tools that I use. But just to sort of acknowledge, there is a lot of anxiety about AI, and we really do have to think about it in a careful way. But I think Andrew Ng, who's the founder of Coursera, he sort of summed it up pretty well when he said, you don't have to be an AI expert, but you do need to be an AI explorer. The Pandora's box is open. It's not going away, but it is something that we can figure out how we can use in the context of our own work in the best way, in the most responsible way to get the most out of it. So today I'm going to talk about two tools that I've used when I'm doing my research, that sort of everyday tasks like literature searches and literature reviews. And then in the third example, I'm going to talk about an AI tool that can help analyze large data sets, so to predict outcomes. And as Mary also referenced, the tools may be changing, but the objective really remains the same. How can we use information and data to solve problems and to make better decisions? So the first tool I'm going to talk about is Google Gemini's deep research. And the example I'm going to use is every year we do this very large research projects where we talk about new and emerging academic programs. And it can take weeks, actually really even months, to sort through volumes of information. I need to identify topics to include in the webinar and then have to research each potential topic very thoroughly. And because the webinar is in January, it always makes the holidays very, very stressed. And in fact, it's the time to start is coming upon us now. So in this past year, when I was starting to do the research, I began using this deep research tool from Gemini. And I was using this to help get me started. When I'm beginning the research, I need to find, examples of innovation and trends that might be translated into new types of academic programs. And I start with really just a very general searches. So the example prompt here, again, very general, what types of new academic degree programs would be emerging over the next 5 to 10 years? And then the tool starts just as I would by crafting a research plan. As you can see some of it here on the screen, it's actually eerily similar to the plan that I craft myself. It maps out the topics and the information that it's going to be searching for, looking for tech innovation, societal trends, types of job skills, healthcare breakthroughs. It creates a list of these topics. It's going to explore the types of information within each it's going to be looking at. And then as it's going through, I can read over the plan and I can make edits. I may suggest a few additional topic areas to explore, or I may delete some that I don't consider relevant. And then once I'm happy with the research plan, I send deep research off to conduct the research. So previously when I was doing this, when I did it manually, I would be searching for articles and research reports, taking copious notes along the way, organizing all my notes, keeping track of citations, and any examples that I deem useful that I would want to search further. But now with the AI tool, I literally am watching the process unfold in real time on my screen, and it takes minutes rather than, days or weeks. And then finally, oh, I missed a slide. And as it's progressing through the research, so once I've hit the, go button, it progresses through the research and it's scrolling across my screen. It's showing me what websites it's searching, what types of information it's gathering, and then goes through sort of this analysis and iteration process. It reports back on observations, it determines next research steps, and all the while, as I said, keeping this running commentary of everything that it's consulting. And then finally, when it's done, it actually, magically prepares this entire report. So it summarizes all of the research and all of the sources that it's been referencing. And it gives me this report complete with an executive summary. And then all the content is organized by categories and chapters and sections. And at the end, it provides a list of citations, including all the sources that it used in the report, as well as additional websites or sources that it may have consulted but weren't included in the report. And, the first time I used this, it was just amazing. So what normally would have taken myself and my team weeks to do, the AI tool completed literally in 12 minutes. So it didn't mean my project is over. I still have a lot of work to do, but it saved me a lot of time up front, sort of sifting through mountains of information, finding the topic areas I wanted to explore. And it freed up more time to do the in-depth research on each potential emerging program area rather than spending all this time gathering and organizing the information. And as the other point is, as Mary pointed out, with that list of source materials that it cited, I can then go look at each of the source materials and I can validate each one. I need to make sure that everything that it's referencing, which ones sort of are credible, which ones that I am comfortable with using in the further research. And then the next tool I want to talk about sort of goes along to the next step. It's Google Notebook LM. So again, I'm following the example of the emerging programs research. After the deep research tool came up with all of those reports and citations, I'm now ready to undertake the next step, which is doing a deep dive on one of the topics. So one of the topics that piqued my interest from the deep research was this idea of the blue economy. The blue economy is sort of the idea of an economic activity that's related to the oceans, and it's layered in with a focus on sustainability. So for this type of research, it's really more of a literature review rather than a literature search. I'm going to use the Notebook LM. I'm going to pause here for a minute just to highlight an important distinction between the two tools. So with the deep research tool, the AI was let loose basically, to go on its own and find the different sources. With the Notebook LM, I, as the user, am controlling the source content that the tool is going to be looking through and researching. Again, I've gone through the list of citations, I've looked at the sources, I've looked into the methodology, and I've decided which sources I want to be referencing when I do the research about the blue economy. So the first thing I do with this tool is you load your data. And again, these can be research reports, they can be PDF, text documents, they can be website URLs, all sorts of different media, even including video and audio clips. And then once I've loaded my sources, I can interact with them. And so I can explore all the different types of data and the topics and probe for more details. So again, this is a big time saver rather than having to read through each and every report, take my usual copious notes. It has an interaction or a chat or query feature. So in this case, I can ask it any type of question I want about broad topics or very specific topics. In the example I have here, I wanted to know, do any colleges and universities, are they involved in research in the blue economy, or are any programs already launches? So the tool goes back to the source materials that I've already vetted, and it identifies and it summarizes examples that it found within those source materials. And you can see with the little numbers here on the screen, it also provides direct links to the citations. So I can click on one of those, go directly back to the source material and read through and understand exactly what it's referencing. Another hugely beneficial feature for me of this tool is the ability to help me organize information. When I'm doing this type of research, I often experience sort of this information overload. There's so much information and I don't always know where to start. So I've loaded the dozens of materials into the notebook, and I need a way of organizing everything. So I use the mind map feature. I click the mind map, and then the tool literally creates an outline of all the different types of content that's in the source materials. It identifies the broad categories of information, and then I can even click on one of the broad categories and it comes up with a bunch of subcategories within that. So here I'm interested in understanding the main sectors within the blue economy, because as these might provide me insights into how the blue economy might have types of jobs or what skills are needed and how all of that in the end would translate into an academic program. And another few of the different features this tool has is the ability to summarize information. Again, these can be broad summaries or these can be very focused summaries. These can take a number of different forms as well. The one I'm showing here is a briefing document. So it really is sort of like that executive summary type of document where it's taking one of the categories that I've put in and it's just giving me a basic summary. You can create study guides from this. You can also ask it to create you a list of FAQs from all the source materials, or even timelines of events related to the topic. So I still have to review the materials. You know, my research is not done, but as with the deep research tool I discussed before, it saves me considerable time. And in this case, the time sifting through all the source materials, organizing them, and helping me get to the so what's a lot faster. And now I'm going to switch tracks a little bit. The two tools we talked about before were really used for research when I'm talking about, you know, research reports, press articles, etc. I'm going to switch tracks now. Go ahead, Mary.
Could I stop you? Could you back up for one moment, please? Because I think one of the reasons that we wanted to,
there we go.
One of the reasons we wanted to highlight this for everyone is that every institution has an IR department or a department that functions in dealing with research, trying to field research requests for the institution, as well as within each of the colleges within the institution itself. And, you know, as with most things, day jobs get in the way, and there's an enormous amount of data and information out there. This is a way that you can corral a significant amount of source information and data and spend your energy on the evaluation of the information, the formulation of its assessment, and provide that feedback either to your stakeholders or as needed for the work that you're doing in your own department. And so it's about using AI to harness those capabilities. It does not replace or displace the human engagement, the intellectual evaluation, and the academic assessment and judgment that needs to be used when you're doing this type of work. And it certainly does not displace it for us when we tackle it. But to the point that Elaine made earlier, when you can pop out research in less than 15 minutes from a massive number of sources and spend your energy really actually seeing what it surfaced for you rather than spending hours and days doing the gathering first and then doing the next piece, it is a way to leverage the amount of information that's coming at all of us in a way that's more productive for everyone. Thanks, Elaine. Sorry.
Yep. Thank you, Mary. So now I'm going to switch tracks a little bit and talk about how we can use AI in institutional research to help us analyze data. So before we were analyzing more text and reports, now we want to think about numbers. So institutions generate lots of data about your students, about programs, financials, about outcomes. And data in and of itself, you know, we hear about data as the new economy, data is great, but it's really only good as the insights that you can glean from it. So, and one of the challenges facing IR is, and other researchers in the institution, is coming up with reasonable answers to a whole series of what if questions. So the example I'm going to use here is a question that we hear often is, what if I launch a new academic program? How large could it be? What would be the financial impact on the institution? So for this type of question, and Mary alluded to it earlier, we built an AI model. It's called Predict Program Size that helps assess program opportunities for an institution and then marry that output of the predicted program size to a rapid analysis of pro forma financials. Now, the inputs for the model here, instead of being research reports, they're massive data sets, structured data sets. These include data about school attributes, about program attributes. And then as with any AI, when we're building and refining the data sets, it requires a lot of trial and error, and it requires a lot of data validation, just as we validate the research sources. But prior to AI, when we did this type of work, we could look at benchmark institutions, we would look at data from iPads, we could review past experiences or perhaps student surveys if there were any. But now we can actually leverage these large data sets, both institutional, public, and private, and we can use them to help AI answer some of these what if questions. So this is an example of one of the output. We ran the model for two different types of institutions. So one is a small to medium-sized school with a private institution with an art and design focus. And then at the other school is a large state university with a broad portfolio of programs. And then when we ran the model, the output was actually a little surprising. As you can see, the smaller school with the arts focus is actually estimated to produce 3 times as many completions as the larger public university. And that's because within all these data sets, the model is taking into account things about the school itself. That doesn't treat all the schools the same. So it's taking into account the attributes such as the institutional focus and the existing program mix when it's coming up and building these estimates of program size. And another big way this model can help save time and give you some, pretty accurate information is it's now going to layer on pro forma financials. And again, these can be produced now in minutes rather than, in weeks. So we take the output from the predicted program size, and then we layer on, we build in your institutional metrics about graduation rates, about retention rates, and then we can convert the completions into the enrollment. And then we add in the financial piece. So we add in your tuition rates, and your discount rates to come up with an expected net revenue based on those enrollment numbers. And then we layer in the cost data. You can use actual data if you have it, or you can use benchmark data that's included in the model. It will include things like, program launch and development costs, instructional costs, ongoing administrative and marketing costs. And now, again, as I said, in a matter of minutes, once you've input the data, you can actually get a really good estimate of the financial impact of the program. And, you can see what the enrollment ramp up is going to be, how that translates into faculty requirements, and then also how that translates into the costs, into the revenue and the net margin. And then you can look at when the break-even point is expected to be and the cumulative cash flow. So this example is really illustrating the power of AI to help you glean useful information from these very large data sets to answer some of the types of what if questions that you're faced with every day. So I hope I was able to really just show you kind of some practical examples of how there's AI tools out there that you can use for really some everyday tasks. As Mary said, they don't replace all of the basic tenets of good research. Still, they're still applicable. You need to vet, everything needs to be credible, but they can really save time. For me, it's a lot of time on the upfront with the gathering information. And then it helps me get to that point of what does all this information mean? I can spend more time on that more high value activity to get more information and help make better decisions.
So I need to extend Dr. Miller's apologies to the group. He has had a very urgent situation come up, and he is not able to join us today. He will be recording his presentation, and we will be including that when we provide the materials after the webinar today to you. So you will have it, and I would like to urge you to make sure you watch it, because he has a tremendous amount of information to impart. We're going to flip through very quickly a few of the things he's going to be touching on, so you have an idea of what's going to be coming your way. Go ahead, Elaine. Dr. Miller wants to, go ahead, Elaine, flip. He will be touching on kind of as he describes it, what we know, what they did, what they found, and what it means. Because there are several uses and applications that he has explored, some of which deal with reducing stress levels within the administrative area, and others in terms of improving performance in areas that are of great import to the college and area. Go ahead, Elaine. So he does address in his commentary about, misperceptions, misnomers, and myths of experiences. I will tell you, he's likely not going to touch on too much in the social work space, given the nature of that type of work, but in the people who are supporting and doing that great work, he will concentrate. Go ahead, Elaine. In the area of operational efficiency, Dr. Miller will be speaking to two things. One, the process in which work gets done, and he will use his college as an example. And then in the second one, external financial pressures that are bringing to bear also in that same space when you're dealing with government grants, for example, and the administrative overheads that go with processing those, but also with kind of the reduction in funding for that at the same time. Both of those kind of simultaneously came together in ways that he has employed AI in his group. And one of the ways is starting with the whole management of the grant process, right? Every school is dealing with the grant you want to issue out of your area, your college. You have a calendar for that. Then you have a calendar for the institution. Then you have the grantor's calendar. And sometimes coordinating all of that might be very difficult, and you might miss deadlines. Along with that is the administrative overhead. So go ahead and flip, Elaine. He will talk through that case study. Go ahead, Elaine. And what the outcomes were that were related to it, and what he thinks it means. And he does want to talk about, this need about closed system AI and safeguards related to it, the need to stay away from the shiny toy attraction that we all have, and thinking about how it manifests. Go ahead, Elaine. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Jim.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's good to be here with all of you online. I saw the folks checking in, and you're coming from all around the country, and so it's good to see a lot of familiar faces or names and institutions. So those who aren't familiar with Point Loma, I serve as provost here, but just to give a bit of context, because there's a few of you that probably will have a perspective like mine. We are a school in San Diego. We're just under 5,000 students. About 2,700 of them are what we call traditional undergrad. The rest are either graduate, or we have an accelerated undergraduate program of a few hundred students there as well. We're a liberal arts university. We are primarily teaching. And in so many ways, we are so traditional and sometimes can be resistant to change, although I think we've become a pretty nimble university. I think that's important to sort of establish, because I know each of us comes from these different fields, and how we're reacting to AI and how we're implementing it. It differs, and your strategy has to differ on all of that. So I'm gonna give a few examples of some things that help loosen the ground and to make some progress here. But I'll start with some initial concerns, and I'm betting that you're probably going to have some that are familiar to you. So emotions run high with artificial intelligence. And when I go back like about a year ago, I ran a workshop with a lot of our leaders, and they were asked to write sort of just first impressions when you hear AI. What do you think of? And I'm not exaggerating when there were comments like, well, the end of the world or Terminator, like that sort of narrative that's out there. The other side of the spectrum is like possibility, excitement. And so I got to recognize, even in administration, we had that sort of range. So that's important to address, because without the culture with you, any sort of strategy or implementation, it's not going to happen. So there's fear overall, and the speed of the utilization of AI within the classroom, not necessarily always by faculty, but by students, or how it's being utilized in the marketplace. It was something that made a lot of folks take a few steps back. and not sure what to do or where to start. What's the right place to start, even if I'm willing? So there was a hesitation or a resistance, not necessarily even if it was against AI, just learning something new. So that change management idea, like how do you incorporate this? And when we've been masters of our area, our subject area, it's a difficult thing to do. And I think it's important to, even from my perspective, coming from this as an art historian, there's several of you that are in these roles that maybe it's not second nature to you to jump into it, where our chief technology officer, he goes to bed every night playing with AI for fun. Like that's his hobby. Where I can't say that that's always the first inclination that I would go to. We've done a number of things at the institution to sort of, I think, loosen the ground. We had an iPad initiative several years ago. So we've put these things out there to increase the use of technology. And what that was to get professors out from behind the podium and to utilize technology either in their teaching pedagogy, face to face, or how they do that work off site or out of the classroom. Also, I guess I go back to that. We want to encourage this as a tool, not necessarily as the initial sort of as a shortcut that so many folks were afraid of. So we had to change that language. So how are we going to use this as a tool for teaching and learning? So how we plan this? The first thing is we developed an AI task force, and we tied that into our strategic plan altogether. We used a lot of employer data to justify that we were seeing that our employers wanted graduates equipped with AI tools, and they needed that skill set in order to work into the marketplace. And part of our mission is we're preparing students for that marketplace. So it was really easy to align an AI task force in that what we're trying to do with mission. So mission alignment was key. So if we establish that, but here's the aspects of that task force that we established. One, we wanted to provide certain tools to students and to faculty. And so we want to agree on what those tools were, because then we could provide the necessary education, development amongst the faculty and students to be able to use them. We could work it into the curriculum rather than there's so many tools, as you already saw when Elaine presented. Those are just a few of the tools, but we know there's hundreds of them. We want to provide that training. And the slides, we're not going to switch slides yet, but the next few slides they're just 3 examples of some things we did with faculty, but specifically it's faculty teaching faculty. That's really the key here. It's so much more effective when we find some super users or some folks who've bought into it, who are incredibly passionate, and they work with our Center for Teaching and Learning to develop these workshops to bring our faculty along. And that's been huge. And so when I think about what we were doing with those workshops last fall to this fall, light years ahead in just a year. It just moves so quickly. After that, developing a course or a degree was also an aspect of that initiative. So I'm really happy that we will have that first course launch this fall for a smaller institution. I think that's really good. I know that there are degrees that already exist out there, but we are making progress on that as well. Developing policy. Obviously, academic misconduct was the first concern, but we had a number of policies that we needed to address on this, and that committee developed a few subcommittees to do that as well. And then once we get that established, it's like, then we can think about how do we improve upon it? What are we doing well? Where can we focus on as we go forward? So that gives you an idea. And so, and you can see the perspective bullet here at the end. I touched upon each of these, but they've seen it as a tool to create. And we've done a good job in so many of our classes of sort of working it into the curriculum now as how you can use AI rather than just ignore it and assume or just say it's a bad thing per se. We're noticing a lot of our freshmen come with that perspective that they've just been steered clear of it. And it's almost like they feel like they hide it. Let's move to that next slide. So there's the AI task force. You get an idea of the folks that were involved in it. We have folks from ITS, Educational Effectiveness, Academic Affairs, Office of Technology, Center for Teaching and Learning, folks with online hybrid experience, our Educational Access Center, and of course, we have representation from faculty across all the particular areas that we've worked with. The chair of that committee reports to me. It's one of the vice provosts at the university, so I've had direct input into it and been updated along the way. So there was an urgent need, and so those policy recommendations, as you can see below, are some of the things, those are some of the details that have been fleshed out over the last year. But the thing that I'm most concerned here, and I'm hopefully you are as well, is preparing faculty. So that faculty teaching faculty, some of the ways we can use AI in the classroom are what we're going to focus on here on the next slide. So remembering what is an LLM? So I'm sorry.
Yeah, we do have one question. How have you gained buy-in from faculty who are resistant to embracing change and generative AI usage?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So faculty buy-in is as a provost or dean, that's what we live for. So we have to feel as though this is something that we are doing together, that faculty have a voice in this and how we're going to craft it. So if administration were to come across to the faculty as like, yes, we're going to start a class, we are going to use this tool, and this is how we're going to do development, chances are it would not go very well. So we've started pretty darn slow with, hey, what are we actually doing in the classroom now with AI? Could someone raise their hand, basically? And we look for those volunteers. And those were our first initial workshops. So a year ago, last fall, we had a kickoff for faculty coming back for the fall semester. And we do a number of developmental workshops along with faculty scholarship for folks who've had sabbatical as they come back. And we strategically place some of these workshops within that day. And they're really inspiring. And each of these examples that I'm showing you are coming from faculty slides. And so this first one is someone's, you can see on the right, they're preparing how to use a prompt to get information to develop something for their syllabus. So they're planning a machine learning with Python course, and they need to write learning outcomes. And so in order to get good learning outcomes, you need to write a very good prompt into chat. So they were giving examples of how they can change the prompt in order to get the desired response. And then after they got the response, the kind of refining they needed to do to work for their class. So by asking faculty to raise their hand and be part of this and take part of these types of workshops, that really did help the buy-in as we went. That is not the only thing we did. We have faculty meetings every month. There were everything from small little things like icebreakers that I do at the beginning of our faculty meetings. How are you using AI? Or how have you used AI this month? And in 2 minutes, share with the person next to you. And it gets it in discussion. It becomes a normalized thing to discuss and talk about and help develop. And so, but I think the big thing is faculty teaching faculty. For me, it's not Jim or it's not another dean instituting, even though, as we know, that sort of the task force wouldn't have happened if we hadn't put that into effect. Hopefully that helps, and that dovetails into this next one as well. We'll move to the next slide. And this was a great presentation given by two of our engineering professors talking about developing rubrics. And if you're a professor, you know how long a really good rubric takes to develop. And using chat to develop this, and you should have seen the eyes sort of open, like, oh my gosh, you mean I could save 3 or 4 hours of my life as I prep for the semester that's about to begin in 2 weeks to do a more refined or nuanced rubric, and it was one of those lovely eye-opening moments. So we'll move to the next slide. A little bit more advanced use of AI was developing a chatbot for your course. And so one of our professors walked through the process of how you would develop a chatbot, a little bit more advanced, but then also sort of the pitfalls and what's worked and what hasn't worked, and then invited professors during that workshop to sort of get the early stages of getting a chatbot up and going. So it gives you an example. So that's just loosening the dirt in order for that to happen. And we went through that year doing a number of workshops throughout the year. So it was important to kick it off with a really big population where I have most of my professors there. The workshops throughout the year become, hey, if you're interested, we'd love to see you. And we'll get attendance from anywhere from 15 to 40 professors signing up. We call them lunch and learns. We'll serve them lunch, and it's a 45-minute presentation by one of their peers. Every once in a while, bringing someone externally into the university if there's some information or specialized knowledge that we don't have. That worked pretty darn well because my participation from our faculty in those would more than exceed 75, 80% easily, with many repeat folks coming to workshops and developmental opportunities, so that the language just became so different. So when we entered this academic year and we launched the year and welcomed new folks in, we had introduced 2 new tools. And so we have it was great that Elaine presented. We have Notebook LM right alongside the Google Suite when sort of they log on to our Point Loma portal, as well as Gemini. And so those are 2 of the tools that we're saying, yeah, these are institutionally what we want to get behind, because we'll be able to develop you in a deeper way in each of these. And we'd like to explore how we're going to integrate these into the curriculum going forward. And so that, again, you sort of just build off, and so the language changes, the conversations change. And again, those are also open to the students as well. And faculty will be able to incorporate, so that there isn't any sort of barrier for folks to be able to access those. So, a final part to this too that isn't necessarily mentioned, in that we're also looking at how AI can assist administrators. So it's not as though, we're just looking at this at the curriculum front, but also how are we using it in the administrative level to be more efficient, and then sharing that out and how that's happening, because many of those things can be useful for faculty, especially when they have part-time administrative roles, but also it's a good way of modeling what you're doing as well as you work forward. So hopefully that helps. I know it's a little bit of a different perspective coming from a smaller school, but that culture component is so important for being able to advance to where we are today. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Terrific insights and fantastic progress as well from everything that you've undertaken. So congratulations on that. I'm not sure if we have any other questions from the group that's in the meeting or not, but we will be making the slides available along with the recording after the webinar, so you will have access to these. We also have contact information here in case you want to reach any of the speakers as well.